Good morning, everybody. You are tuned to Computers 2K now on the Nissan Communications Network. I'm Amnon, your host for the next couple of hours, along with Spence.
Good morning.
And Mike is here.
Live from the southern border.
Okay. Mike, good morning.
Hello. Live
hello.
from the northern border.
There you are. Our numbers 919-518-9773 or Computers 2K Voice on Skype. And this morning's show is made possible by VMix Software, Telestream's Wirecast software, and is sponsored by Tom Sinclair of Live Streaming Gear. Good. So audio problems are gone.
For now.
Until they resurface.
Yeah. Anyhow. So, what's going on this week? What happened last week? Anything anybody wants to talk about while I fix Facebook?
There weren't any glaring new security threats. Mostly the rehashing of what's already out there. Although there was another big breach or several big breaches. Orbitz and a couple of other companies announced. And it's funny how they'll put out a number and say, 800,000 people were affected. No, it was really 1.2 million. No, it was really 10 million. It's amazing how these things can happen. And just they could know so little about it. Are they just throwing a teaser out there, throw the first bad news out there and figure that after that, nobody will pay attention? I used Orbitz. I used to use them all the time, and then I didn't for a while, and then I started to use them again and buying airline tickets, and I did use them in the window of the breach, and sure enough, I had my card was compromised. Now I don't know if it was from Orbitz. It could have been a lot of places it could happen, but you get really tired of this. It's like we're getting numb to the point that this stuff happens. And I think that's a problem.
Who else had a breach this week?
Stay close to the microphone, Amnon.
Sorry. Said who else was?
Yeah,
somebody else had a breach this week.
Yeah,
it's hard to keep up with them anymore. The problem is there's not a severe enough penalty, although there is a new law going into effect in Europe on May 25th that has some very severe penalties for managing personal identifiable data of individuals. There are companies that are all over that if they have any business doing any business in Europe, they're scrambling to come into compliance with these new rules and regulations. The penalties are as much as 20 million pounds or euros for breaching confidential information. It's going to be interesting to see what effect it has. A lot of U.S. companies with European interests are also scrambling to come into compliance. Others are trying to determine whether it would impact them. I still haven't figured out how a European entity can assess a fine against a U.S. company unless it's a U.S. asset within their jurisdiction.
Oh, don't worry. The World Court will handle it.
It's scary to think that may be where this is headed.
Oh, any way to separate money from one entity and give it to another, they'll figure out a way. I'm serious. I mean, look Look at the crazy schemes they've come up with to redistribute wealth. No.
Yeah.
And of course, the World Court and the UN, they're the best people to handle it for us, least biased. But then again, well, there was a, a lot going on this week when you look at Facebook, Google, uh, and all that. You know, there's just that story is hard to keep up with now. It's moving so quick. But what is the real ultimate outcome of this? That you're already seeing people being their status on Facebook, for example, being changed to hazardous because of someone's opinion. And you can put the most vile comedian out there saying things, and that's fine. But then somebody on the conservative side gets out there and makes a statement, and it's considered unwholesome, and they'll either block it or flag it. So it's pretty crazy. Google, one of the, I don't remember if it was the chairman of Google or one of the executives of Google was caught in but he said what he really felt, I guess, in a tweet saying that maybe we need to have a civil war with conservatives. So what does that mean? What is this? If this is what they're thinking, do we really have this kind of planning going on in the background? Oh, well. As they say, buckle up. But
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what Google is doing. I really don't understand what Google is doing. I mean, now it doesn't want to remember it doesn't remember my login to Twitch. Suddenly, no, you don't have one. Really, really ridiculous.
you know, you think about it when they talk about these algorithms that are created to do some form of monitoring or scrubbing or something like that. These had to be that you have to come up with the policy that you're applying. It's a human that does it. And there are a lot of people inside YouTube and Google and Facebook that actually put eyes on people's content and make decisions. It's not just the algorithm that makes the decision. The algorithm flags it, but a human has to look at it and say, "Oh, objectionable." So you wonder why some things are never caught that more than half of the population of the country would think is objectionable, and then the stuff that we don't. It's just you always come back to it's a private company. It's a private company. Yes, it is. And I honestly don't know what path we should go down if there is a way of addressing this except to say, I'm not using it anymore. And that they fail because everybody abandons them. But
I don't know.
I always go back to if you have never watched the videos of Yuri Brezmetov, who was a Soviet propaganda officer back in the 80s who defected to the United States and gave a series of interviews back in the 80s talking about how are we going to we're at war with at the time the Soviet Union. He said, how will we win? We won't win with armies. We won't win with the battles. We'll win we will win. The Soviet Union will win by destroying our culture. And whether you believe that's possible or not, our culture is rapidly changing. I mean, look at the way this is just anecdotal evidence, but look at the way people drive. People, seriously, look at the way people drive and the disrespect and the it's all about me attitude that you see. You know, I've recently driven back and forth to Atlanta twice in the last month, and driving down I-85, and it's like, where the hell are the police? There are people driving like it was NASCAR, putting other people's lives at risk. There's road rage. You see examples of road rage that you cannot. You sit back and go, I guess I was born on the wrong time. So I think it's a shame that our we've kind of lost control of where the culture is going. Now you can say that maybe the culture wasn't great to start with. That growing up in the 50s and 60s, that we had our own issues. Yeah, we did. But where are we going? All right, enough of that. Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack a computer show. And what it did, technology, I think, is what enables this to happen so easily. Technology and media. But did anybody notice on their texting? Now, I'm not. You have an Android device, Mike. You have an iPhone, right?
That would be correct.
Did you notice that when you text, that sometimes the incoming texts are out of order? That you will see someone's text come in to the left. You will see your response on the right. You respond, and then the person responds to what you just said, but it appears above your response in the incoming field, out of order.
The only time I've had that happen is when we were both texting at the same time.
I've seen it happen, and I've noticed it more and more. It's happening on Pam's phone. Um, but the reason it became an issue was there was a text sent out related to a family member that was missed because it was out of order. Thinking, well, I never got this text. And it turns out you go back and look, and sure enough, it was there, but it was out of order. So, what this stuff gets time stamped? Where is that falling apart? So,
Yeah, I don't do that much texting to notice this.
I do a
It's
fair amount. I mean, it's typically how we stay in touch
yeah,
with
yeah.
family, with things that are going on. As you know, one person has medical issues now that we have to keep track of, and we're active texting about that. But if you are not aware of this, you could miss something. I can't say that it's only between iPhones. I don't know for a fact, but
Don't know. All right. Let's see what it. This is from 2 weeks ago. Google is replacing its URL shortener service, Goo.gl, with Firebase Dynamic Links, FDL, as of April 13th. These new smart URLs will let you send people to any location within iOS, Android, or web apps. And you won't be able to create new Goo.gl short links after the 13th, but existing users can manage them via the Goo.gl console for the next year. After that, all the links will still work, but you won't be able to access the console itself after March 30th, 2019. Google suggests creating FDL from now on or using other shortening service like Bitly or Owly. So they are doing away with the Goo.gl.
so did they say? I apologize if I missed this, but did they say how long anything that was created with that will be out there, or it's
Yeah,
all going to go away?
it'll work. You will be able to manage them. No, you won't be able to create new short links after the 13th
Oh, okay,
of
good.
this month, but existing users can manage them via the Goo.gl console for the next year.
Okay.
But it does say after that, all the links will still work, but you won't be able to access the console itself. So if
That's
you
fine. anything that I use it quite a bit, but it's usually to product related where
Hmm.
people are asking me for recommendations for something, and you go to Amazon or and you look at the link and you go, this is too long to paste into a text, so I'll paste it in with the Google shortener because it's the first one that comes up when I search for shortening. So
Yeah.
what was the first one? Tiny URL.
Yeah, there was Tiny
Yeah.
URL. There was that Bitly. I never used them, so I don't know.
Hmm.
It's I never got into it. I mean, it's fine in an email. Put the link in. But for
I
people that use, if
I
you use
will especially one of my customers is looking for a recommendation for, or I'm asking them to order something
Mhm.
that it's better that if it's something they need to order, it's better for them to order it and have it come to their house and me to order it and have to
Right.
pay
Oh,
for it until they can
yeah.
reimburse me. So I'll do that a lot, and I'll use the shortener because it'll be 5 or 6 things. It just makes it easier in email. Because sometimes some of these URLs from Amazon are just crazy. Just I realize they're all system generated. They have so many things going on at the same time, but it had a lot of characters in it.
And let's see what else. Anything happening in the chat that we need to? No. Okay. Um, this I don't know why this is even a news item, but I guess for Apple users it means something. According to new data from analytics company App Figures, the total number of apps in the App Store declined for the first time last year. App Figures note that just 755,000 apps were released for iOS last year. 755,000, just 755,000 apps. It's a drop of 29% from 2016. In contrast, 1.5 million apps were released for Android last year, marking a 17% year-over-year increase. Over the course of the year, the number of apps in the store declined from 2.2 million to 2.1 million, marking the first time the store had fewer apps at the end of the year than it did in the beginning. The reason for that change is likely Apple's decision to remove older apps from the store that were not being updated regularly, which is a good thing to do. Last year, Apple removed apps that were not built on 64-bit architecture, something necessary for them to work on newer iPhone models. So, I mean, there's going to be a time where, okay, we created every app possible. They can come with something new to create an app for. Are they going to look at it as a negative thing that, oh shoot, now we don't have as many this year? I don't know. I mean, what was it? 2.2 down to 2.1 million, 2 million apps.
And
Gee,
there's a lot of really crummy apps out there too. I mean, they're not. It's not that they don't
yeah.
work. It's just that they're just. What is this for? Or you look at something and it'll be rated 1 star or no stars. It's like, well, why is it here? But one thing I have noticed with uh, the the Apple Store related to older devices that can't be updated anymore once you've reached the end of the update cycle, you go back and you try to. There's two things I'm seeing. One is that some apps are not being updated. I upgraded to 11, iOS 11, and there were 10 or 12 apps that I had on my phone that even in the first 2 months have not seen an update and will not run on 11. So that's just a developer thing. They're either not making any money at it, or they've lost interest, or moved on to something else, and they're not keeping up with it. And then the second thing is that uh, there are some people that, like, for example, the Netflix app. If you have an older Apple device and you, for some reason, have to reload the Netflix app, it will allow you. It'll say you need to download an older version of this app, and it will let you do it. But a lot of newer stuff, they just keep up with the latest iOS, and there are no older versions. So if you have an older device, you're out of luck. So it's interesting. It hit me with one app. One of the first apps I ever purchased was a Texas Hold'em app that was actually written by Apple. Very well done, uh, with video and all that. It no longer works on iOS 11, and it's not. And Apple said we're not upgrading it. So I paid for this app, and now I can't use it. Yeah, it's. I understand the economics of it, but hey,
No, it's just interesting that that people are actually paying attention to things like that. Now, talking about infections. So last week or the week before, Atlanta, the office, government offices of the city of Atlanta got hit with a ransom notice. Last week, Boeing was hit by the Wannacry computer virus. Wannacry, that ransom virus that circulated, what is it, 2 years ago?
yeah, around 2 years ago.
How? What in the world?
Well, if they're like any big companies that I've ever worked for, they don't necessarily they have a kind of a closed system for updating their machines, where they handle putting out updates. You don't get Microsoft Update directly from Microsoft. They get it and then they manage it and they push it out. So maybe they missed it. Maybe
Raising
they did.
fears
Yeah.
within the company that it could cripple some vital airplane production equipment. The chief engineer at Boeing Commercial Airplane Production Engineering sent out an alarming memo calling for all hands on deck. It is metastasizing rapidly out of North Charleston. And I just heard 777 automated spar assembly tools may have gone down. Adding that he's concerned the virus will hit equipment used in functional tests of airplanes ready to roll out and potentially spread to airplane software, indicating widespread alarm within the company at the potential impact. He said the attack required a battery-like response, a reference to the 787 in-flight battery fires in 2013 that grounded the world fleet of Dreamliners. I mean, this should have come out back then when WannaCry was hitting hospitals and offices all over the world.
Amnon, is that why last
It's
night when I was outside walking and I looked up, I saw a plane and the wings were on backwards?
that's good. I mean, sense of humor needs to be
Yeah, I
involved
mean,
here. It's just amazing. Uh,
and potentially extremely expensive
and potentially extremely expensive.
for somebody.
I mean, if they have a network that is communicating with airplanes in the air, like Windows has with our machines, that can go into an airplane that's in the air, and God forbid, bring it down. It's I don't know. I find it really very, very irresponsible. Just like the government of the city of Atlanta. This wasn't something new.
And they
So
still haven't fixed it yet, right?
no,
They're,
not
they're
that I
still
know of.
going. They're still going without essential services in some cases. They're doing it manually because they. I don't know that they're refusing to pay the ransom, or for whatever the reason is, but
It's ridiculous.
it's something.
What do you think, Mike?
I don't necessarily have an opinion.
Okay.
I just sometimes you just have to shake your head.
If I didn't know any better, I would say Mike is running for office.
No, I'm not running for
He's
office. I'm
staying.
running from office.
Yep.
I cannot imagine what it would be like to have to sit there and listen to all that nonsense and that crap going on. In fact, there's a guy. It's interesting because there's a guy I'm friends with on Facebook who's running for city council in a city down
Your
in
audio now is kind of low.
Well, listen more carefully. Um, all right. Is it low to you, Spence?
Well, little, not bad. Not like Amnon's was
You're
before.
not moving the meter at all.
All right. Well, let's see why.
That sounds all right.
Now, wait, yeah, he spoke a little louder, but it's still when you're talking, the meter moves.
Is this any better?
Oh yeah.
A guy I'm friends with on Facebook is running for office for town city council down in the city in Florida. Because there's just so much corruption going on. He has documented it as to where the mayor of the town has used the city's power to go after people violating the town ordinances with regard to construction. And for example, they have an ordinance that says that you can't have over a 6-foot fence. He has a 10-foot fence. I mean, just it's just almost a caricature of itself the way he's going after them. And what was interesting to me was that as sharp as this guy is, he's really, really sharp. There was a debate among the three candidates there that this guy had somebody in the audience streaming it with their iPhone. So you couldn't hear the audio that well, but you could make it out. But I'm sitting there listening to this. The questions are asked, submitted in advance, and then they're selected and then asked by someone designated in the audience. The questions were just ridiculous. What do you think about the overflow of the tributary on the third bend on the river that feeds the water supply next to the processing plant that's 1.3 kilometers located away from just all this nonsense? And two of the guys said, well, I'm no expert on that, but I'll tell you that we have the right people who can give us the answer, and we have to do what's right for the people of our city. Then, of course, the incumbent says, well, there's really a serious problem with that. If you would go down there and look, you would see that there is this obstruction that has been created by natural accretion with regard to the just nonsense the way the whole system is so corrupt and set up. But it did indicate to me that these people have to put up with a lot of nonsense. I couldn't sit through it. I mean, to me, I don't think town council people need to be responsible for the technical aspects of a tributary next to the city water supply. They need to make sure they hire the best people possible to give them the right advice and not a politician's advice. I know that in the town of Cary, for example, years ago, our town paid $11 million for a system to operate the stoplights, a computer system. I don't believe they've touched it since then, or we have a certain computer oriented town council person who's probably screwing it up and telling them how they have to run their jobs. And now you can drive all the way through Cary and stop at every stoplight. You used to be able to make it through 2 or 3 of them at a time. It's just until people pay attention, learn who they're voting for, learn what these people stand for, learn why certain things make a difference, we're going to continue to get what we've got.
Yep.
It's the old section saying that elections mean things.
That whole traffic light thing that involved Raleigh too at one point because they put in fiber optics to connect the lights together and they never got it to work right. They spent a ton of money and they just could not get the system uh, to function the way what they intended to do. The good news is they put in fiber that they could use for other things, but they intended to hook together the traffic lights.
Well, speaking of traffic lights, it's a technology issue, and I'm not sure. I guess when you get elected, you have to leave your brain at home. That's the only thing I can figure. There's something mutually exclusive about being a politician and having a brain. Because on these traffic lights, and by the way, because we have traffic lights, to me, that is a fundamental function of government. That is that before you're worried about all these technical things that you want to spout out that you don't understand, let's deal with the things that affect people the most. But in the town of Cary, for example, when you are at a traffic light, if you're going to, we'll take it as an example, you're going to make a left turn. There are sensors in the road. When you drive across that sensor, it feeds back to the traffic control system to let it know whenever there are no more cars left to turn. You get a yellow light, then you get a red light.
Mm-hmm.
That's the way the system works. The problem is, other than the traffic intersections that I guess the only thing that I can figure is they're controlled by people from the North Carolina School for the Blind, is that they time these things such that if you don't stay on the guy's bumper in front of you, the light is going to switch so fast that you're going to get 3 cars through and then it's going to turn red again.
Mm-hmm.
And cars can be piled up behind you. There are standard traffic numbers that would say that sensor needs to have at least a certain amount of time between cars before it makes a determination that there's no one else in line. The problem is dramatically compounded by cell phones because I have blown my horn at people sitting there at a green light more in the last year than I have in the last 10 years combined.
Do you think it's cell phones that are contributing to the big gaps? Did I talk about this last week? About the big gaps that people leave at traffic lights now, 2, 3 car lengths. They pull up and they stop way in advance.
We were just talking about that last night. If you talked about it, I don't remember. I wasn't listening.
I might have been with someone else, but I've noticed it now, and it's getting to the point where it's completely blowing up the design of intersections because it's designed to hold so many cars waiting, and it backs them up so far they're backed up into the travel lanes, and because people literally stop, and it's like, why you're leaving 3 car lengths between cars?
So why is it? Okay, chat room.
I don't know.
Why are they doing it? But I mean, we try to figure now. I would say that a significant number of times that you see that, what happens is, and I've watched this because I'm curious as well, what happens is they will pull up to the car behind them with normal spacing. They sit down, they start texting on their phone, not paying attention.
Mm-hmm.
The cars in front of them just gradually coast and tighten up a little bit. They feel more comfortable pulling closer to the car in front of them. They just creep up on it. They end up leaving these big spaces in between them.
I do see that, but I also see people just stopping initially way back.
Well, I do too, but in fact, we'll watch this and talk about it again. I've noticed in many cases that it's actually a cultural issue. There are some cultures of people who apparently that in their countries that's the way they drive. That's a normal thing for them.
We keep putting it, putting the I don't know if we call it blame, but the cause of this on people that are driving, I notice many times that it's not the fault of the people driving. In many, and in
The
our
intersection moves.
the intersection moves. No, 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 no. Don't laugh. Don't laugh. Exactly. The intersection is changing. They go and they put another lane for turning, or they move stuff around, and it happened on two that I remember. One was right there on Chapel Hill Road and not Walnut. What is it? Shoosh. Maynard.
The
There,
PTS towers.
yeah, past it. No, but it's on the Chapel Hill Road side, not on the Chatham Street side.
Okay.
Okay. They revamped the crossroad, and unless the car ahead of you or you went into the intersection almost, if you were a good driver and you stopped where you're supposed to, the crossroads will never, the lights will never realize there's a car waiting to turn, and the left turn will never turn green. The same thing happened, I think it was on Hillsborough Street and something. But
That's what I'm
it
telling
is
you. And not these are incompetent people running these systems. Exactly what you're talking about too, in that if in many of these lights, the way they have them set up, they have turn lights up there. They've gone with these stupid yellow flashing arrows.
Mhm,
Plus, they don't always operate the turn light.
mhm.
If you don't, it's as far as I know, it's illegal to pull into and block the intersection waiting for traffic to clear when the light is changing. In other words, waiting for the light to turn red and oncoming traffic, and then you go ahead and turn. I'm not
Mm.
sure, but I'm fairly sure that's illegal to do that. There are places where if you sit behind the turn line at your intersection, you will sit there for a week because you
You,
don't hit the trip in time. It thinks that there's no one in that lane, and on the next cycle, it skips you.
I was out the other day on my motorcycle and I pulled up behind somebody at a traffic light and they were impatient, kept creeping forward and actually went where they were above uh, the sensors.
mhm.
And we went through 3 light cycles without the light turning green.
But you can run on the third one, you can run the light legally.
Well, eventually it did change. I think maybe the system was made, but I pulled up as far as I could go, but the car behind me would not move up into the sensors. The motorcycle doesn't set the sensor off.
Right.
And so I just, you could see they were getting really impatient because it kept moving up like a
The-
couple inches and jam on their brake, a couple inches and jam on their brake. And I'm like, you did this to yourself.
Spence, do you remember when we came out of North Tail one day? That was there off of Chapel Hill Road
Yeah.
with the Deuce, with the big truck.
Yes.
And we were at the intersection, and it will never allow us to go through. And I kept moving backwards and forward. Sometimes when you move, it triggers. Spence then said, Amnon, you know what? I think the truck is too high. The sensors are not sensing it. And we had to go on red.
They're inductive detectors.
Either that or there was somebody sitting with a camera off the side of the road pressing
Doing
a
it on
button,
purpose, yeah.
watching you
The
laugh.
the other the other bad place that it happens a lot is when you have two turning lanes and only one of the turning lane has the sensors in it. That happens when you come off from south going north on Six Forks and you try to turn into the belt line.
I will tell you from experience that there's a possibility that that is not accurate, that there in fact are sensors in both places, but nobody ever reports these things to the traffic control people.
Mm-hmm.
The reason I say that is because we had a similar situation at an intersection I used to use over near my office. I knew it like the back of my hand. I could tell when something was wrong. I at least on 7 or 8 occasions reported that the trip was not working on this particular turn lane. It would literally let 3 or 4 cars go through, and there had to be at least 20 cars always in line at that time of the day. Nobody ever called it in. I would call it in, and within a day or so, they'd go out there and verify that, in fact, the sensor was not working, and they would have it back to normal. People don't report these things. They're
Yeah.
just happy to take whatever is doled out.
Or they just don't care
No.
about intersections and they blow through the red light anyway. So
You really couldn't blow through the intersection over there on 6 Forks. There's no way.
I see this all the time on side roads where people don't even slow down. Go right through the red light,
Oh.
or
People
right,
are
right through the
amazing
red
to me.
light and the stop sign.
People, the ones that are amazing me, are the ones going through stop signs.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know what?
Uh,
I always think about it and I try to be patient and realize that I said the problem is they've just never been caught. Once they get caught and they get that ticket, maybe they'll think about it. But
And if you report it,
never
you'll be the
actually.
first one caught.
I was worried about Hillsborough Street when they started putting all these runabouts. But you know,
Roundabout.
what?
Roundabout.
Roundabout. Where they took the lights out and put a runabout instead.
Roundabout.
Traffic circle.
Yeah, traffic circle. But the last few times that I had to go downtown, I'm saying, wow, this works. It really
But you
works.
know,
But you have to know how to drive through one of those things
It
too.
works as long as the person in front of you knows that
Yeah.
it works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you'll be sitting there all day.
Right. Exactly. That's the thing. You need to learn how to drive through one of these.
I'm
I've
not
seen-
sure that they're efficient. Maybe they are. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just not convinced yet.
I've seen people turn left into a traffic circle. It was pretty fun.
Ooh,
Yeah. Yep. But I think
Oh boy.
when they first opened the one by NC State, it was 2 lanes.
Mm-hmm.
There
Yeah.
was an inner lane to go around and an outer lane to get out.
Right.
And they had to re-engineer it because people were crashing into each other. Because you'd be in the central lane and realize, oh no, I really do want to get off here. And they would just go over and there were accidents constantly. So they had to re-engineer it to a single travel through. But
Yeah,
mean,
but I mean,
look
I'm
at the
I'm oh, sorry, Mike.
I was just going to say, look who some of the people around here vote for. You're going to expect them to be able to navigate a traffic circle?
Mhm.
I mean, seriously, you go through it and you're driving downtown, and I never had to stop at a stop light anymore. And you spend a lot less time waiting for somebody to go around, and then you keep going.
There's some
So it's
interesting
nice.
comments in chat, which I totally agree with. Brent says they're not painting the lines on the roads around here anymore. It's hard to see at night or when it's raining, which could not
Mhm.
be more true. That's fact. And what the state knows but refuses to acknowledge is that the population is aging, and people, even with good vision, don't have the night and the depth perception that they had as younger people. They need to be dealing with that. We were driving home last night from a friend's house. In fact, that's where Nick is here in Raleigh. And we were driving back on the new section of I-40 over near your house, Amnon. Nasty, nasty night.
Yeah,
You could not,
it's
you
good to
can't
see.
see the
You
lines on the
can't.
road. They
Right.
have reflective markers out there. And what's so interesting about it is it looked like a runway. It looked like you're lining up with multiple lanes on a runway at night because of the lighting. It was just strange. John says that most of the traffic circles around here are too small. Alan says that Edmonton has a roundabout with a stoplight. Boy,
That's
you do
gotta
that
be.
down here.
I'd like to see that.
That, wow.
I guess it didn't work, so they put a stoplight.
Arnie says that a roundabout is also called a traffic circle, a road circle, a rotary, a rotunda or island, and it's a type of circular intersection. Gene says it's simple. Just remember the car in the roundabout has the right of way. These things have worked great for ages in the UK. Yeah, they may have worked in the UK, but I know when I was over there, they weren't working great.
I remember hitting some in the UK where the roundabout was, the circle itself was maybe 5 feet across. in these really small towns. They still put the roundabout in, and that was you couldn't fit two cars in the roundabout at the same time. It was so tiny.
No,
But
I think what Gene's meant, the principle works and it allows for safer traveling, but people need to know how to drive.
here's a way
That's
to
the trick.
relate all this to now the upcoming self-driving cars or cars with assist technology, because now they have, not only do they have cars that will warn you that you're drifting, they have cars now that will move the wheel to put you back on track. If the road you're driving on does not have both lines, the center line and the fog line, the car then relies only on the center line to line you up. If the center line is flaky, it can basically lose its mind, and it has to react quickly. It has to be set up to warn you and to get you get your attention again to put you back on track.
Mm-hmm.
Um, this is an interesting thing. You've got to have really both lines. The center line and fog line have to be there in order for this technology to really work well.
Yeah,
Brent
I'm not
says that
worried.
half of the roadway sign lights don't work either. Just drive around I-40. A lot of them aren't working. Well, Brent, you don't understand. The government doesn't have but so much money. They can either spend it on things like roads, or they can put it where it's more important, like solar subsidies, where they can buy votes.
All right. Now, we all heard about FoxConn, right? FoxConn,
Yeah.
I know about
the
FoxConn.
Taiwan-based company best known for manufacturing Apple products,
Among
announced
others.
that was 2 weeks ago, announced that one of its subsidiaries, Foxconn Interconnect Technology, is purchasing US-based Belkin for $866 million in cash. Belkin owns a number of major brands, including Linksys and Waymo, noted Android police. And it says the buyout would make Foxconn a major player in consumer electronics instead of just a contract manufacturing company. Belkin primarily sells phone, tablet accessories, but also manufactures networking equipment like routers and Wi-Fi range extenders.
Sounds to me like whoever wrote that article hasn't a clue.
What do you mean?
Foxconn makes more computers than any other company in the world, probably by
But
about
no,
10
no,
to
no.
1.
They're talking about they're a contract.
I
They're
know
making
exactly
more.
who they are.
Yeah,
They are,
They make
remember,
'em.
they're one of the biggest manufacturers, OEM manufacturers
right.
in the world. I mean, they have factories all over North Carolina that do design build for hundreds and hundreds of companies.
I mean, it's insane how many they make them for Apple, they make them for
Yeah.
Lenovo,
Mhm.
Dell, Gateway.
Yep.
They're probably only about 3 manufacturers in Foxconn. I mean, it's just incredible what they do. And they have, well, I won't say it. They, being in China, they
It's still
immunize themselves from certain United States regulations.
it still needs to pass approval from the U.S. Committee on Foreign Investment.
Yeah, well,
So there's very real chance of acquisition could be blocked.
It's,
So we'll
what, it's
see.
very possible that a lot of the stuff, for example, the Linksys products may already be made by Foxconn for Belkin.
probably are. They just probably just
Yep.
bought the brand names and the distribution channels.
So
And you can't keep up with who owns what anyway. I mean, it's really ridiculous. I was looking at Gibson Guitar Company. Unbeknownst to me, they'd purchased 5 or 6 major companies. They were trying to create a conglomerate. They ended up getting in over their head. Now they're having to spin them off. I know that Cakewalk Software, they own that. They spun that off, but at least another company has picked it up and started running with it.
yeah, it's a shame when a company, out of just inexperience or ineptitude, takes a perfectly good company, buys it, and then runs it into the ground, and then has to essentially
Mm-hmm.
liquidate it.
Mm-hmm.
You
That
know what the
wasn't.
problem is? And this is what's aggravating. In most of these cases, the problem is ego. I can do magic. Anything I touch is going to turn to gold. You go out and buy a company, you have no idea what you're doing. You have no idea what it's worth. It's free money because it's investor money, and it's just ridiculous.
Well, that was one of the reasons for the demise of Nortel, was that arrogance and buying companies. They actually bought companies. There were two cases that were just glaring. One was they bought a company that made D-slams, which were the DSL head end equipment. The day they bought it, the market had changed. They went into the negotiation. They bought this thing, spent billions to buy it. The day they bought it, they chained the doors up and shut the company down. Never actually ran the company. Well, that company actually had a product. The other example was they bought a company that was supposedly had fiber optic switching that used tiny micro mirrors to switch fiber optic signals. Well, it turned out that the product never existed. They bought this company, spent billions on it, and I don't even know how long they gave it before they realized, oops, we bought this thing and it doesn't actually work. And they eliminated the company. But it's one of the reasons why Nortel, I mean, you can talk about it now because they're gone. I mean, I actually really enjoyed working for that company because I loved the technology. It was some of the stuff that they made was the best in the business, but they got arrogant and started buying companies, and it was their part of their demise. It was the market change too, but
Well, the market change would have killed them by now, but they could have
oh
lasted
yeah,
longer.
it could have lasted longer. And the thing that infuriates me is here I had this great investment, 17-year investment in working for this company. And they came out at the very end when they finally sold the patents off. They put them up for auction and they got almost $5 billion for the patents.
Wow.
The company. They said, oh, gee, if we'd have known the patents were worth this much, we never would have went out of business.
We could have sold them and licensed them back.
Right. And could have survived. So, yeah, this is, yep.
Well, so, hey, Spence.
Hey, Amnon.
Did you know Brent worked for Nortel?
No.
15 years, he says.
Yeah, I was an acquisition. I came from Bay Networks, got acquired by Nortel, and I wound up going over there. And I've worked, I had 15 years at IBM and 17 years on paper with Nortel with through acquisitions. And both companies, I enjoyed working there very much from a technology perspective. The bureaucracy, well, big companies. The good news is I still have a small pension from both.
Are you ready to do the specials?
I will be in just a moment. I don't have it open. Let me get a chance to open it up here.
Go ahead. Let me.
I'm close. I'm close. I just have to get it going here. Open in a new tab. Here we go. This week's specials. All right. So Amnon,
One second. Wait. I'm putting the thing in the chat. Yeah. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
all right. So the remote rig we see here for remote communications.
Yeah.
This is the latest thing now. Pedal power to keep your computer going.
Yeah. I mean, it
I
works.
tell you, this is it. This is the latest thing from Microsoft. Because after we have the big EMP pulse that takes out our power grid, any surviving equipment that was shielded from that, this is how you're gonna have to use it. So no problemo. Oh yeah. I don't see any problem with that. Everybody will get fit, they'll lose weight, and they'll be able to be online. And you notice it does say Tech Support Center Bombay on there.
I'm looking at the other ones.
Which one? The dog or the little
The
girl?
dog, the girl.
I like the one on the bottom. I found that the last second. That's a Mac and a Windows machine talking to each other there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh boy.
Yeah, always right.
All right. So Computers 2K Now specials for April 8th, 2018. And I got up this morning to do the specials, and I keep tabs by looking up at my atomic clock on the wall. And for some reason, it lost its mind and said February 28th, 3:12 in the a.m. So did your atomic clock go nuts this weekend, Emma?
I don't have one. It never worked here. I have a
Oh,
few of them, but they don't work.
interesting.
Mine don't work either.
Mine has worked. In the update, let's see if it says.
Yeah,
I
it
can't read it from
works.
where I'm
Yeah,
at
yeah, it
because
works.
I pressed the refresh button that goes out and tries to find a radio signal. And I know, do they still send it only certain times a day?
I
Yeah,
thought it's sending it all the time.
I wasn't. I remember at one point it was like they only did updates at a certain time.
No, I don't know.
I don't know
You
if that's
can't
true or
say
not.
that yours is working fine.
Yeah, well,
That's a false statement because you just said it got February.
yeah. Well, hey, do you know the whole theory, quantum mechanics, and of parallel universes?
N-
They could be a parallel
It could
universe where
be.
that's the time.
Could be.
Yeah, you don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's plausible.
All
All
right.
right. Laptops at Best Buy. We've got a Lenovo 15-inch AMD A12 for 320 an A12 for 329, $50 off. That's the price point to start with is very good. Um, Office Depot Office Max, and that's a 329.50 off. Office Depot Office Max has a Dell 11.6-inch 2-in-1 laptop tablet for 299, save $100. And Staples has HP Pavilion i7 laptop for $599, which is $210 off the regular price. Desktops, we've got at Best Buy an Intel Core i3 from Dell for $369.80 off. Office Depot Office Max has a Lenovo Idea Center desktop with an AMD A12 for $399, $200 off. And Staples has a Dell i5 uh, for $499, $649 normally, so $150 off. Tablets, we have at Best Buy Digital-Lane 8-inch tablet, 8 gig for $59.99, 10 off. Office Depot has a New Vision 8-inch tablet for $59, which is 20 off. And I didn't find this in the regular sale ad for the week, the regular specials at Staples, but they do have on sale an iPad 9.7-inch 32 gig tablet for $279, which is $50 off the regular price. Just happened to stumble across it when I search their site. Networking, we've got at Best Buy a Linksys MaxStream AC 1750 router for $99. That's 30 off. Office Depot Office Max has a high-end Linksys MaxStream AC 5400 tri-band MIMO antennas, multi-in, multi-out. Now this is a screamer of a router, but remember you have to have a card, a network adapter in your device that will work with this to get that kind of speed. But $349.50 off. And finally, Staples has a Netgear AC 1200, which I would consider to be an entry level AC router. They do go lower than that, but I wouldn't get less than this. But $79, so $10 off.
All right. So stop there a second and
Yes, sir.
talk about this special card. So what do people do? I mean, if you buy one of these routers and you don't have the speed, that means that you probably have an older card in the machine that receives it.
Yes.
What are you
So
supposed to do?
you can either
Do you
get a
know?
USB adapter. They
Okay.
do make them
Mhm.
for AC standard, and they're getting up there in speed. The more, of course, they're going to be more expensive. If you were to buy a AC 1750 or AC 4000 or something like that, it's going to be expensive, but you can get them. The advantage to them is that they do typically come with a built-in antenna, and they can give you some gain and also give you directional capabilities. So if you have a PC in your house that's weak signal, which you replace your um, router with one of these AC routers. You can buy an AC adapter USB and point it towards the where the router is. You'll get much better service
Right.
without having to go with one of these mesh systems.
Right.
The other alternatives, if you do have a desktop, there are limited PCI cards that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
They're not as popular anymore because the marketplace is better served by USB 3.0 network
Mm-hmm.
devices. They're just more versatile. With a laptop or a desktop, you just don't have a lot of, unless you have an extension for the antenna cable, you don't have a lot of choices as far as placement goes. So,
Yep.
but yeah, you can get a card. They don't keep up with the technology with laptops, obviously, because of lag in production. And a laptop would have to have, they all have built-in antennas. People don't realize this. If you flip the laptop over and you take the cover off the back, you will see typically there's a Wi-Fi card in there. It's a standard micro PCI slot for this card. And you'll see tiny little antenna cables, little coaxial cables connected to that board. And they go off to antennas built into the laptop, typically into the cover where the display is. And that's why if you have the USB adapter and you're going to deal with it, having it external, it's better to have that because you will get much better antenna coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Diversity antennas is what you want. Diversity meaning antennas on different planes, one horizontal, one vertical, and one possibly 90 degrees off of that, because the signal when it comes off an antenna goes off as a wave. And if antennas are on the same plane, the signal's received much better. But if you have antennas that are not on the same plane, it really cuts back on the signal strength and the bit error rate of the actual signal. Okay, moving on to storage. Western Digital, 4 terabyte USB 3.0 drive. Damn, this is a good price. Sorry about my French there, but $89.99, $110 off at Best Buy. If you have one of these routers that's got a USB slot for sharing on the network, buy one of these and you now have a 4 terabyte network drive that
Or
shows
if
up
you
as a shared Windows resource on your network. It is a great way to create an inexpensive network drive.
or take it out and put it in your machine if you need an internal one.
I got to watch out. Some of these are
Some of these,
proprietary
yeah.
connectors.
Yeah.
I took one apart one time that was broken just to see,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a proprietary connector from the system. It actually went directly onto a small board that connected inside. There was no
Okay.
way to remove the drive. It was not a SATA connector.
Okay.
Yeah, depends on the vintage.
Mm-hmm.
That was at Best Buy. Okay, Office Depot, Office Max, 32 gig.
Wait, I mean go ahead. Yeah.
But
No, never mind.
32 gig, very high speed, UHS, ultra high speed, SDHC memory card for $19.99. That's half price, 20 off. Good if you're doing video capture on a device. You need it to be as fast as possible. I don't know what I guess covered up the megabits per second with the little logo there, but fast. Staples has a Seagate Backup Plus Slim Portable Drive. This is 2 terabytes for $69.99. That's 10 off. Accessories. Best Buy has a Logitech C922 Pro Stream webcam for $84.99. That's $15 off. Office Depot has a 1100 VA battery backup from APC for $129. That's $20 off. This would be well set up for, and I think that 1100, that's about 700 watts, I think.
800 watts.
Yeah, somewhere around then. But this would be good for managing, obviously, multiple devices. They give you 10 outlets.
Mm-hmm.
So this is meant for, possibly a small server environment. Maybe some heavy duty network gear that you want to back up. Staples has a Brother P-Touch Easy handheld label maker for $19.99. It's $15 off. They do make several of these printers, label printers that work with the same tape. But I find that the larger ones tend to waste more tape because of the where the cartridge loads and where the exit
Right.
is, where the tape comes out. It's just too much space. Every time you
Mm-hmm.
print, you wind up with all this extra
Yep.
tape that you're not using. So what I've been doing is I try to string together now the labels that I make. If I know I'm going to make a, you know, uh, 6 or 7 labels, I'll put them together. I'll write the thing. I'll put a couple of spaces. I'll write a next one. I'll put a few spaces. Write the next one. Put a few spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And I print it all as one long tape, and then I can trim them, and I don't waste as much space between tapes.
Right.
Between so little trick there. Okay, monitors. AOC 21.5 inch LED monitor at Best Buy for $79.99. That's $50 off. Dell 22-inch monitor at uh, Office Depot Office Max for $99. That's 30 off. And a Dell 27-inch LED monitor at Staples for $179, which is $70 off. Best Buy has an Epson Fast Photo high-speed photo scanning system. I don't know much about this. It's pricey. It's $599, and that's with $50 off. But if you have a professional application or you have a ton of pictures to scan in, I think this will do. I don't know that it takes multiple pictures at the same time, whether you can stack them like a feeder. But you do want something that's going to be fast, have high resolution. So I can't say I'm recommending this or not, but this is something new I hadn't seen before. So uh, high-speed photo scanning system from Epson at Best Buy. Office Depot has a Canon image class laser printer. This is $74.99, $95 off the regular price. This is both auto duplex and wireless. And Staples has OfficeJet 3830 all-in-one inkjet printer, $39.99. It's half price. Used to be $79.99. So if you need a occasional use inkjet printer, it's got a built. It is an all-in-one. Does have a scanner. So $40, and it's a good. It's HP is going to be a pretty good machine. It depends on the supplies and so on, for the most part. Okay, home automation security. We've got at Best Buy, Ecobee. I did not find this in the weekly ad, but it was on sale. Ecobee 3 light smart thermostat for $145. That's $23 off. Now, the light means that it does not come with a separate sensor. You can buy extra sensors to put around the house so that you can actually program this to say, all right, during the day, I want to pick up the temperature off of the actual thermostat, but at night, I want it to pick it up in my bedroom and adjust the temperature from there. It is handy for balancing temperatures throughout, like if you have a large home. It does not change the temperature by room because you have to have a multi-zone system to do that, but it will make the room you're in comfortable. You can program it so that it will by time do that. And it is voice compatible. It does work with, it has an Amazon Alexa client built into it. Good product. I've installed several of these in people's houses and they're very happy with them. The company has excellent support. Office Depot Office Max, a Belkin Wemo Wi-Fi smart dimmer, $64.99. That's $15 off. Buy it before it goes over to Foxconn, right? And Staples has an Amazon Cloud Cam indoor security camera for $99, which is $20 off. And finally, our friends at Fry's Electronics. If you ever do go out to the West Coast or out west where they have these stores, I think they have one in Atlanta, don't they?
I don't know.
Fry's. It's an amazing store. I used to go to the very first one out in San Jose. It was an amazing place, but still a good store. Sell a lot of diverse stuff. But Garmin Speak with Amazon Alexa GPS device. This is the what do they call it here? Garmin turn-by-turn navigation. What is the product name? It doesn't actually say this here. But $119, that's $30 off the regular price. The advantage to this is that you can actually use it. Has to have a Bluetooth connection to your phone, obviously, but you can use it to do Alexa commands and also do navigation through Alexa.
So it's
using
just an extension of your phone's
yes.
navigation program app.
Yeah, and I believe that that shows the display, and it's rather cryptic looking. I think it does have better graphics capability than what you're seeing here,
Okay.
but I don't know how popular it was, so I guess that's why they're reducing the price. Spot satellite theft tracking device for $79.99 is $20 off the regular price. I guess it could work with any place you can stick this on. It says lightweight and waterproof, used on a car, but it does require a service contract for service to work. Universal tablet stand. Um, I see more and more people as I go from home to home using tablets as their main browsing device over dragging a laptop around the house. So you can have this. I know one of my customers has several of these tablet holders wherever they're sitting in the house. They've got one either next to their chair or next to their on the kitchen table and at the stove and all these different places. They take their tablet around, they pop it into these holders. But $24.99, that's $3 off the regular price. Patriot 128 gig USB 2.0 flash drive. Keep in mind it's a 2.0, not a 3.0. But for $24.99, that's $15 off the regular price. Patriot USB 3.0 7-port USB hub. And it does have power. It does provide power to the devices. $14.99 with a mail-in $10 mail-in rebate. Normally $24.99. Got a 1500 VA battery backup from APC. This isn't the same one as we had over on the other vendor.
No, this is a flat one,
More
not a tower.
sophisticated. But $179, and that's $20 off the regular price. And there's the new company we've been seeing over there, the Socomec. Looks a lot like the I can't remember what was the brand we liked. Damn, I used to have the lifetime warranties.
Oh, wait.
CyberPower, yeah, it's right below there.
Wait a second.
CyberPower.
Let's see over a second.
Yeah, but 750 VA battery backup.
No, this was 1100.
That's $17.99 off. And then finally, two CyberPower battery backups: a 1325 VA for $119 and 1000 VA for $98. Both of them are either 14 or 10% off the regular prices. So that's it for the specials for April 8th, 2014.
Well, thank you.
Yep.
All right. 919-518-9773. Computers 2K voice on Skype.
If you watch the show recorded, does all that, whenever you say that, does it change it to Computers 2K then?
Yeah, today is the 8th.
Asking.
Yeah. We were talking about breaches, and I still knew there was something. So Best Buy, along with Delta Airlines and Sears,
that's it. I remember there was
says that 24/7.ai, a company that provides the technology backing its chat services, was hacked between September 27 and October 12th of last year. That's not Computers 2K then. Potentially jeopardizing the personal payment detail of a number of Best Buy customers. The electronics company said in a statement that, as best we can tell, only a small fraction of our overall online customer population could have been caught up in this. I don't understand. What in the world is a chat program? Let me answer this. Turn down your speaker, caller. What does a chat program have to do with having your payment information in it? When did you ever chat with somebody and had to give them credit card numbers? It's a chat back end of the chat. I don't get it. But anyway, caller, you're online.
Well, good morning, Amanon. How are you?
I am fine. Who's this?
This is Tommy Willis.
Hey, Tommy.
I know you guys have been sitting there with just awaiting the update on my drama with my IP cam, and I just wanted to give you an update.
Sure.
The troubles I had with that camera was the camera was bad.
Really?
I hooked up another IP camera, and it works fine. So that's what was going on with the camera situation. But I did want to say I thank you to Nick for his suggestions on the apps to use, and to locate all of that, and that helped me tremendously. So thank you all.
Tommy, how did you find out that it was bad?
Put another camera in it, in place of it.
So you just went and got another one?
Yeah, I did the old
take it back.
Shade tree mechanic. I replaced a part.
All right. That's fine.
But it started working, and so I know where I'm at now, and I've got now the one I replaced it with is just a 720p, but it works very good now that I got it adjusted in and everything. Thing is, the first camera cost me $44, which I'm writing that off as experience. But the second one cost me $22, and it works better. So, but I just wanted to give you an update and say good morning to all you guys, and thank you for your help and advice and stuff like that, because I used them.
Thank you for calling.
Have a good day.
And I will see you tomorrow on Giles' show.
Yes. Yes. Bye-bye.
Nice. Figured out a way how to make it work.
How much did you pay him to call in, Emma?
Whole bunch.
It works. That's
good. This story is disturbing, but I can understand it. It has to do with Facebook. In an interview with Today, airing Friday morning, Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg insisted that Facebook does not sell or give away user information, but made clear that Facebook's entire model is based on being able to share user data with advertisers. If Facebook users...
That was the whole point from the beginning.
The what?
That was the whole point from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, he fell into a good idea when he built that. He built the original system. I think it was for fraternity or something like that.
The thing is,
the original contract job that they got was to build, but they realized, hey, we got a great thing here, and we could use it to capture, just like one of the former executive officers said. The whole point of this whole thing was to get people to be on the site as much as possible.
Right. And she said, if Facebook users don't like its ad-based model, the only other option would be to have users pay for the service so they could keep their data to themselves. As Sandberg told Today, our service depends on your data. So we don't have an opt-out at the highest level. That would be a paid product. So they are sharing it, and that's how they're paying for it. That's how we're paying for it. But I think it's many people, it costs a whole lot more than what it's worth. Yeah?
Well, I think there's a lot more is going to happen because we talked earlier about I don't want to call it censorship necessarily. It is ultimately censorship because it's one person's opinion being blotted out by the person who controls the switch.
Mm-hmm.
But ultimately, there's a lot is going to happen in the next 6 months, I believe, related to Facebook, Google, YouTube, and what they're doing.
Yeah. And let's see what else we have here. Mike, you're awfully quiet.
I'm just sitting here learning about computers 2K now.
Okay.
Mike, I have a 486 I can sell you to learn about.
You take credit cards?
Yes.
Okay.
Something else about Facebook. Last week, the New York Magazine found that Facebook was archiving videos user thought were deleted. The social media company is now apologizing for failing to delete the videos, blaming it on a quote unquote bug. It adds that it is in the process of deleting the content now. So there you go. There was talk there that people were uh, restoring something and or downloading stuff, and they found out all those videos among this. They said, I deleted that one. What is it doing there? And found out that they were really not being deleted. Here's something that we all need to worry about. A new scheme where new debit cards are intercepted in the mail and the chips on the cards are replaced with chips from old cards. Thieves can then start draining funds from the account as soon as the modified card is activated. The warning comes from the U.S. Secret Service cribs on security reports. The reason the crooks don't just use the debit card when intercepting them via the mail is that they need the cards to be activated first. And presumably, they lack the privileged information needed to do that. So they change out the chip and send the card on to the legitimate account holder and then wait for it to be activated. The Secret Service memo doesn't specify at what point in the mail process the crooks are intercepting the cards. It could well involve U.S. Postal Service employees or another delivery service, or perhaps the thieves are somehow gaining access to company mailboxes directly. Either way, this alert shows the extent to which some thieves will go to target high value customers. Here is one situation where you don't want to have a lot of money or be a high value customer to any of those. But this is scary. We thought, oh, the chips, great. Well, no. I guess those things can be switched. Tell me that's not scary.
It's scary.
Thank
What else do you want me to tell you?
I know. I mean, what now? Okay, I don't want any more cards. That's it.
Yep.
Uh,
I have a question I put up in chat there. I have been wanting to buy a drone. And the reason I want to buy one is because I am actually considering getting, I already have a pilot's license. I don't know if that'll make it easier for me to get a drone license, although someone did say that that would help because of some of the basics you need to know to get your drone license.
I guess if you can sit in it, you can.
Yeah, well, yeah, of course. Well, just understand, I don't know, but there's someone in my neighborhood that works for a company that builds drones, professional drones. I mean, the kind that are used for, they sell to the military and all this stuff. But we were talking about this, about opportunities for drone flyers for not just for doing a wedding or whatever, but uh, there are apparently opportunities out there for people to fly drones for profit. And I thought it would be kind of an interesting thing. There is you can actually fly a drone for house inspections. They do roof inspections and other things where you can come in and have somebody come in and do do a flyby and a recording. Like if you're going to buy a house, you want an inspection of the roof. You don't want to actually go up there. So, but I just, there's so many out there and there's so many, it's just so confusing about uh, features, function, price, fly time, cameras. So just wondered if anybody had any recommendations. I figured need to start with a relatively inexpensive one, but I'd love to have one that actually does live video where you can sit there with your phone or tablet and actually look at the actual video, not just be recording it to the onboard memory, but actually see it. And I would guess that is going to probably raise the price a lot. But even the inexpensive inexpensive ones have some amazing features like station keeping, one key return, um, just good stuff.
Okay.
Oh, well. No, I just wondered if anybody has any recommendations.
Mike, don't you have a drone?
I do have one. It's still in the box.
Oh, okay.
I actually did buy one, and what happened was within 4 hours of buying this thing online,
It crashed.
my credit card was compromised.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah.
Where did you buy it from?
Then I never got the product, and I had to dispute it with the credit card company.
Where
And
did you buy it from?
it was from a online website that I had used before, which is so
Interesting.
strange. But it was apparently the card got compromised, and this company kept saying, "Oh yeah, we'll be shipping it soon." I kept asking them, "So what's the status of my order?" "Oh no, you're queued up for shipping. We'll be sending you the shipping number." And it just kept going and going and going where nothing happened. And I disputed it. And the credit card company took the say of the retailer to say there was no fraud here. And I said, well, I'm not disputing the fraud. I'm disputing the fact that they never got the product. So I had to go back to the credit card company again, and they finally restored my credit again, and I got my money back. But the company never shipped me anything. So
Interesting.
Let me give people one word of advice unrelated but to that. If you decide you want a 99-cent domain name because you're thinking about it and you don't know that you want to do anything with it, it's a potential throwaway. There are several companies doing it. GoDaddy claims theirs is doing it, but if you go to the GoDaddy website and try to buy one, they will search through all the cookies on your computer. They will search your address, your credit card number, your email address, a similar email address. If they can find any connection at all that makes them think you've already used that deal, then they will disqualify you. A friend was trying to buy one, and she has a website, an email address on one of my domain names. So they flagged her and said she's never purchased a domain name in her life. But so then I went to 1&1 to do it for her in her name. What a disaster! 1&1.com. If you decide to buy a domain name from them, you're on your own. They charged the debit card. They then flagged it and said, wait a minute, your account is under review. It needs to be reviewed. By the way, it'll be 3 days before anybody's here. Just on and on and on and on. And finally, which was probably because I typed a wrong number or something in the credit card address. I'm not sure what it was, but the error message made no sense, and it was going to take a while. And I just canceled the account and told them that if they didn't refund the money to the debit card, I was going to put it in dispute, which probably cost them $10. I just, if it were me, I will never again mess with one and one. They used to be a good company, but now it's all overseas as far as I can tell.
Interesting. Okay.
Arnie sent link, YouTube link to a guy who made a drone that'll carry a person. And what it is made up of is a series of smaller drone propeller motors built into a grid, which is just a great idea. Instead of having a big a bunch of big propeller blades, you've got many smaller ones, and it's fascinating. Can't tell how many are in each little round pod there, but maybe 15 or 20 in each one.
I like the guy who had the lawn chair with all of the helium balloons.
Yes, remember that?
Yeah.
Yeah, and his method for getting down was he had a pellet gun with him, and
Yep.
if he needed to descend, he would shoot the balloons out. And he went through controlled airspace and got in a lot of trouble because they had to close the airport down. I remember that.
There was air traffic control that said Delta 404. You will notice that there is a lawn chair at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, that's great. I remember that.
All right. Here is something else that's, I don't know where it went, but disturbing. Facebook, again, was in talks with top hospitals and other medical groups as recently as last month about a proposal to share data about the social networks of their most vulnerable patients. Facebook was intending to match it up with user data it had collected and keep the hospitals figure out which patient might need special care or treatment. The proposal never went past the planning phase and has been put on pause after the Cambridge Analytica data leak scandal. Facebook and others collected and used detailed information about Facebook users. Of course, this work has not progressed past the planning phase, and we have not received, shared, or analyzed anyone's data, a Facebook spokesperson told CNBC, and we believe them. But as recently as last month, the company was talking to several health organizations, including Stanford Medical School and American College of Cardiology, about signing the data sharing agreement. I still don't understand what they're trying to do here. To match it with user data and help hospital figure out which patient might need special care or treatment? What in the world? Who comes up with all these ideas over at Facebook?
People who are out of touch with the rest of the world who think that they're living in the Silicon
Amazing.
Valley tech bubble.
Amazing.
It's too early to really say just yet, but we try to identify trends, recognize trends. I will say it's a major long shot, but Facebook could be in trouble. People are, once you start building negative sentiment towards a company, it can be very difficult to overcome that negative sentiment. They're doing a lot of things very wrong.
The key is how long it will take them to recognize that and act. Because if
Well,
they're in
they say
denial, it's
Zuckerberg is unloading his stock, so maybe
he did it even before all the stuff came out. They were all unloading their stock.
well,
All the
they
big
knew what was
executives. Yeah, yeah.
so. But I mean, I'm not naive. I mean, it's the people now that we complain about privacy, and the young people complain about too much privacy. They want everything out there. They want make sure everyone knows that they have a venereal disease or whatever the thing of the day is.
The woman who owns 23andMe is actually married to Sergey Brin, who was one of the founders of Google. And so he was the creator of a lot of these algorithms and the original Google search engine. And so they want to know where you go in browsing, but they also want to know your genetic makeup.
Mhm. And the thing goes on and on about Facebook. Facebook scans the text and images that people send each other on Facebook Messenger, making sure it all abides by the company's rules governing content. If it doesn't, it gets blocked. The company confirmed the practice after an interview published earlier this week with Chief Executive Officer Mark Zuckerberg raised questions about Messenger's practices and privacy. He told Vox a story about receiving a phone call related to ethnic cleansing in Myanmar. Myanmar. What
Myanmar,
yeah, it's spelled wrong.
what used to be called Burma.
Yep. Facebook has detected people trying to send sensational messages through the Messenger app, he said. In that case, our system detected what's going on. We stopped those messages from going through, and some people reacted with concern on Twitter. Was Facebook reading messages? It is, I mean, were they reading? Of course they were reading messages. But this is just an excuse. I mean, look at all the other stuff that went on Facebook, and that did not bother anybody. And as far as information about talking, not talking straight or something, where was it? That's Microsoft now. Come on. I know I've got it. I know I've got it. You have to be really careful. Oh, according to Microsoft's new terms of services agreement, you could get banned for offensive language, resulting in termination of your gold membership and or any Microsoft account balances. The changes go into effect on May 1st. If you and significant other are getting hot and heavy via Skype, you better watch your language and any nudity, because that too can get you banned. The ban hammer could also fall on if Cortana is listening at the wrong moment of a document.
How are they going to know what's in your private Skype?
I
call
have
in, Don?
no. Well,
That's the big reveal.
Yeah.
They're actually letting us know now that they're monitoring it.
Well, we knew it.
I know, but now they're admitting it.
yeah, it's just amazing.
You're mad
And they
about 'em.
say, they say, however, we cannot monitor the entire services
Right.
and make no attempt to do so. Says, I'm not sure that will make you feel any better, as another portion states that Microsoft may also block delivery of a communication like email, file sharing, or instant messages to and from the services in an effort to enforce these terms. Or we may remove or refuse to publish your content for any reason. I mean,
Explain this to me. So we're at a meeting at Microsoft. We're in a brainstorming session.
yeah,
When we decide, I mean, we're some of the vilest, most filthy talking, filthy acting people on the planet. Well, we need to start policing private conversations in Skype. Let's decide how this is going to benefit our company going forward. How does that
I
conversation work?
have no idea. That's what doesn't make sense.
I don't
What do you,
understand it. I
what,
mean, who are you trying to appeal to? Churches? I mean,
what are you trying to accomplish? I mean, it's just like building a case against certain people, and then can come up and say, "Oh, you know what? We're not going to let you be on Skype anymore because you said
screw you. I don't care.
right." But they apparently they think that we do.
Well, I mean, some people do. Some people live by it. But I've started actually gravitating towards SIP more recently than I have Skype. In fact, I canceled my Skype number because I'm now, and it's a transition, but I'm now actively using SIP, whether I have multiple SIP phone numbers, multiple SIP accounts. I use Bria 5 on my computer, but I also hooked up my second OBI device and put a standard tip and ring telephone set on the OBI device. I have it sitting right here beside me so that I can make SIP calls using my regular telephone set. I also have my Google phone numbers programmed into that unit. I have two units, one upstairs, one downstairs. I'm not, and the other thing with SIP is what some people don't realize is that with the right clients, it does audio and video just like Skype. It is nowhere near as user friendly. It's not as ubiquitous. But as far as me, with my technical expertise, I'm good with it. And I can call you on the telephone, or I can do a sip to sip call. You remember how we played with it years ago, Amnon, and it
Yep.
was quirky at best. It's coming of age. It's working really well. OBIHAI. Alan, look up OBI 202. Amazon has them. They used to have an OBI 100, OBI 110. Those are discontinued, no longer supported. And OBIHAI is the brand, is the manufacturer, but it's an OBI 202 or OBI 200 on Amazon is a good place to get them. They're really, really cheap. It's one of the most fun devices I've ever used. In fact, we haven't talked about it in quite some time. What this device does, I don't know if I can bring it up here. I can't reach it.
I was going to say we need to do a show about that.
I don't know. We need to do a whole show. We certainly ought to do a segment on it because Nick and I, when Nick was in New York, I had him buy one because he wanted a separate number other than his cell phone number for his web development business.
Mhm.
So he got a Google Voice number, which I don't know how that's going to work out going forward. I don't know what Google Voice is doing, but the OBI device is the only one that works with Google Voice. And what happens is when you plug this unit into your router, you then set up an account at obitalk.com. Click on add devices. It will go out, scan your network looking for an OBI device. When it finds it, it says, enter this number. You enter the number, it links them together. Then to configure the OBI device, you do it actually on the website, and it communicates with the unit and tells it what it needs to know and so forth. You tell it that you actually have 4 slots on the OBI 200. You have four different you only have one phone line on it to plug in a phone, but you have 4 actual numbers that you can put into the system. The first one is a VoIPO number. 2, 3, and 4 are Google Voice numbers. If you dial my VoIPO number, it rings just like a regular telephone. My home telephone number is just like Amnon's numbers are VoIPO uh, VoIP numbers. 2, 3, and 4. If I want to call someone on my Google Voice number, all I do is dial star star 2, and dial the number. It goes out on line 2. Star star 4 goes out on line 4. It's without a doubt one of the neatest devices out there.
And it's not expensive either.
No, it's slick. It's slick. I will say that I had a bunch of problems hooking up my second one, and the reason ultimately that I found out is I was getting either a port or it wasn't IP conflict; it was port conflict, because some of the ports that these things manage, they do it automatically and do it very well. But for some reason, to hook up the second one on the same subnet, I had to change the listening port from 5060 to 5078, and I only found that in a post somewhere. I tried 5080, that didn't work. 6060 didn't work. I plugged in 5078. That may be a port that VoIPO uses. That may be where that came from. So I don't know, but I plugged it in. All of a sudden, everything starts working. But it's a
Hmm.
really neat deal. And if you need a VoIP line, Amnon has a link on the bottom of the Computers 2K Now webpage. In fact, it's right below the chat room. It's VoIPO, VoIPO. If you click there, uh, that it'll tell you it's 2 years. You got 2 years of telephone service for $150.
And that's
I
two
believe there.
lines, really.
Well, and I don't understand how the two line work. You got it figured out. I don't understand it, but
No, I mean it's two lines. It will ring at the same time.
You
You
could
don't have
sometimes you could set it up with a distinctive ring depending on the line.
I think you can. I never did, but
Yeah.
it's two lines. I mean, you can have a line for yourself and a line for the kids, or a line for your wife, or two lines for yourself as a business. You can put one of them on hold and pick up the other one if you have a two-line telephone.
is it two
It's
telephone numbers?
it's not two telephone numbers. It's two lines with the same number.
So how does that work? So I dial your number. You and I are talking on the
Right.
phone. How does the second line then come into play?
It will if somebody else calls, the second one will ring, and I can put you on hold and pick up the other one.
Well, how is that different from call waiting?
That's what enabled call waiting to work
Um,
in the first place.
Yeah,
Is a lot of these background SIP services in general allow dynamic switching using internet-based
now,
protocols instead of using proprietary stuff that phone companies used to do.
now let
So
me ask you this.
just a nice way of doing it where two clients can negotiate all these features.
Let me ask you this. You asked how is this different than call waiting, Mike? With just the regular options that you have on a phone. Here you can pick up the first line and call out, put it on hold, pick up the second line and call out.
How? How do you pick up the second line?
You have to have a multi-line phone. I mean, one of those standard. I mean, I have a 4-line phone that you have to put 4 individual POTS lines in.
Which ATA device are you using?
For VoIPO, it's the VoIPO one.
Okay, so they provided you one that actually has two
Oh
jacks
yes.
on
Oh yeah. Yours
it.
is
Okay,
too.
that's the difference. That's why.
Yours
I got
should
you
have
now.
two.
No, not the no. I don't use their device. I
Oh,
use
okay.
the Obihai device,
Yeah.
and I have the 200. The 202 would do what you're talking about.
Okay.
I believe
Yeah.
it would do, or get their device. And I mean,
I don't know.
I've been with them since they were a very new company, and you would be sick if you knew what I'm paying.
Never
for my
mind. I don't
lines.
want to know.
You don't want to know. And I've got about 8. But Paul Underwood is saying that UMA is $479
Yeah.
a month, and a lot of people haven't are very happy with it. But I
I
will
have that
tell
too.
you,
I have that too.
I have
I
UMA for 6 years.
I talk with people who have UMA, and there's a lot of latency in the call.
I don't
I
know.
haven't noticed. I did notice that in the beginning, but I haven't noticed it lately.
I hope that maybe they fixed it. And the reason why is they're so popular that their servers can't handle the traffic. With VoIPO, they're not that big, and their servers, they used to be part of HostGator, and they split off.
I've had UMA now. I actually use UMA because their basic device supports sensors you can put around the house. You can do door opening sensors, motion sensors, water sensors. It's not really an alarm system, but a kind of a monitoring system. But because their phones support DECT standard for wireless phones, but you can also hook up these sensors using that same uh, radio spectrum,
Yeah.
which is
A
nice.
friend of mine has UMA. I told him to do what I do and get VoIPO and Obihai, and he's going to get it. He got UMA. When I talk to him, he and I talk over each other because there's so much latency in his system. And he's
And
got UVerse.
That could be just the link, but because you're going, if you go point to point SIP, when you go to UMA, you're not going point to point SIP between your SIP client and their SIP client, because they each SIP is a standard, but you have the choices in negotiating and supporting features that other third party vendors don't. So the interoperability between SIP clients if it's not through a closed system, can be questionable. So that could be what's going on because there's always some kind of transcoding that goes on, whether because unless you can match features and releases exactly, something in the middle has to do has to translate the SIP session. One might be using one codec, one might be using a different codec. So there's always, they call it transcoding. But the advantage to SIP is it's great if you have a small business. You don't need to use a TA. You can buy a SIP phone that's got multiple lines built in, and you give it an IP address, it registers with the provider, and now you have PBX quality features at a low cost per month, and you can add phones on the fly. You can have phones in your company anywhere you've got an internet connection.
Or you can do it for no money by doing a soft phone on your computer like Blink, which
you can, but if you need to have a desktop phone and you want to have people not have to worry about that and have something that's on all the time, even when your computer's off, it's a great feature to have. And the new phones have built-in video conferencing. They have all these great features, multi-line.
Well, I mean, again, I'm big on VoIPO, but for a couple of reasons. One, it works very well. Number two, I'm paying less than Paul's paying for Ooma.
I bet they support SIP phones.
And they support it. Number three is if I have a question or need something, I can call the president of the company. He and I are on first name basis. So that's worth something.
There's one thing about Paul's numbers. $479 a month is for the taxes. You still have to pay a yearly fee. When you buy it the first time, I mean, if you buy it from them, it's like $120 some. The unit. You buy the unit. Then every year they charge you about $120 for using the service. You can always call back and say, look, that's too much. And they say, oh, okay. And they make it 80. So you need to take 80 and divide that by 12 and then add the monthly fee that you're paying. So you need to look at
$11.
Yeah, so you need to look at it that way. Now, the truth is when you pay it up front once a year, you don't think about it every month, but it's there. You have to pay for it, Paul. But every time I see that they charge me $120 some, I call back and I said, let me have the customer support. I want to cancel. Why? Because I'm not about to pay $120. Oh, okay, well, we can fix it for you. And
why would you do that? Why would you even have it, Amnon?
I
mean, with VoIPO, why would you bother with Ooma?
It was just another service to have because sometimes VoIPO will go down.
Well, so will Ooma.
No, but you see, not at the same time.
Well, I get it, but
it's just like redundant. And besides, and wait a second, no. The VoIPO is for the business. It's for the 852-2121. The Ooma takes care of the house number and the second number of the business, which it rolls into. So even if VoIPO goes down, which it did quite a few times, the way that I have my system working is you call the 2121. If it doesn't answer, or if it's busy, or if it's not there, it rolls into the cell phone. And from the cell phone, it rolls into that second number that Ooma is on. And it always worked out.
What kind of voicemail does VoIPO have?
I don't choose any voice. I don't choose any voicemail.
No, they're saying, can you access it from a non-VoIPO line?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good.
They've got stuff in their interface. They play with stuff. They
Unbelievable options.
Yeah, they call it beta. They have a tab that says beta, and it's stuff that some of it I've used, and it's every bit of it works. If anything, it's as if who was it? It was Google that had everything beta for 5 years. They just didn't bother moving it over into the released category.
I didn't want to support it the way they support a release product.
But I mean, there's always the risk. It's a small company; they could go belly up tomorrow. You never know.
If my job was at my desk all day long, I'd be playing with this stuff, but I just never have time to sit here and play.
Well, you can actually. I have Bria on my iPhone. I can access every one of my VoIP lines
Yeah.
from my phone.
My problem is that when I'm working, I don't receive calls. If I'm at a customer site, I don't answer my phone. I don't do it unless I'm not in the house. I just don't want to do that. I think it's rude.
Well, it depends on what it is, but for the most part, if it's the stuff that can be done later, you need to focus on
Well,
getting the job
if
done.
it's an
a
emergency,
distraction.
a family emergency or something like that, I'll answer it. But for the most part, I silence my phone and I'll look at texts if they come in, but I just don't. It just I'm in somebody's house concentrating. They're paying me by the hour to work on something, and I don't think it's right that I'm chatting on the phone.
Well, you can always deduct the time, but then you end up not making
Oh
it.
yeah, I don't want to have to do that. So.
All right.
All right. It's that time of day, huh?
It is.
It is, and I'm hungry.
Yes, it is.
I'm hungry too. My cook has been slacking here lately.
Oh. Mike, you may not get to eat.
I'm sure I am. I live next door to McDonald's over here, so hold on.
All right. I forgot to say that Nick is not here because he is on the way to NAB. He's going to be at NAB this week for a few days, so that's good for him. Oh, there is this food. Oh, he comes in. He's here with his food.
So I told you I got it under control.
Yeah. All right. Any last words? None.
Word.
Word.
That's the last
Okay.
word.
All right, guys. Thanks.
Nothing here.
Thanks, Spence. Thanks, Mike. And good morning, Kathy, Hannah, Nabil, Mac, Norm, Katie, and Donna. Thanks, everybody, for tuning to Computers 2K Now. We hope you enjoyed and maybe learned something from our time together. Remember to practice safe computing. Back up your hard drive and update your virus scanner. We'll be back here next Sunday at 9, but you can always reach us at Computers 2K Now. While you're at it, like us on Facebook and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll see you next week. Obviously, Nick is not doing his show tonight, but we'll see you next week at 9, next Sunday. See you, everybody.
You are tuned to the Nissan Communications Network. If you tuned in too late, you can always watch each program in its entirety or download an MP3 audio file of it in the archives section at nissancommunications.com. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Twitter, and like us on Facebook. Sponsored by Telestream's Wirecast software, StreamingGear.com, Carolina Apparel, and DeltaForce.net.